Again, thank you to all three of you guys for doing this. I know you guys are hustling, you're grinding, you're getting the truth out. Seriously, I really appreciate it. But a couple quick announcements. You know, for a lot of you guys, some of you guys may know, some of you guys may not know. My personal Instagram, Jordan Sarmo, got banned as of 2 days ago from going live. So we are going to start streaming all the Instagram lives on this channel, Speak Truth Without Fear. So if you know people, other friends that watch this every single night, please let them know this is where we're going to be hosting all the lives. And then we also dropped our podcast last week, which we dropped one today with Wake Up with Linda. You guys can get that on the Speak Truth Without Fear podcast. It's on Apple. The only one that we're still waiting to get approved is Spotify. And we are actually working on getting this show actually off the Instagram channel very soon. We'll still be having lives. We're not going to be stopping them. We don't want to be dependent on Instagram, because if they choose to shut this one down, then the best way that we can stay in touch with you when this happens, is seriously, I hate giving plugs, I really do, but we're at a place right now, and now that my Instagram just got banned, we got to really start pushing this. If you guys can go to speaktruthwithoutfear.com and put in your email, and we will email you the link of the new platform, because we are going to start taking this onto another platform over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And so if you guys can really do that, that will help. That's the way we can connect with you. That's pretty much the announcement. So real quick, I want to talk about a couple things that's been happening. I talked about this yesterday. I'm going to just bring it up one more time, because I know there's probably a couple hundred people on here that did not see last night's live. We have to stay on target, because I've been watching all three of your guys' lives. I mean, your guys' posts, and a lot of you guys, you're hitting the media. You're hitting what the division that the media is bringing, how they're affecting culture. And one thing that I've noticed more than ever in the last 2 or 3 months, I mean, I noticed it over the last couple of years, but it's heightened right now, which is whenever there's something that is very groundbreaking and truth-giving and will shine a lot of light on a lot of darkness, you see like the media just throw something up to keep us distracted. And I think one of the biggest stories in the last 24 to 48 hour cycle is what is going on in Georgia right now. And I made like 3 or 4 posts on it today, and I was intentional about that. And you guys are probably, a lot of people that follow me, they're like, oh my God, he made like his 4th post in 24 hours about Georgia. When Trump wants to get his word across, he literally says like the same thing 15 times in a row, because he knows that the person has to keep hearing it. And so I want to bring this up one more time, and then I'll probably, unless there's a new update, but I want to talk about real quick the report that came out of Georgia over the last 48 hours. John Fredericks reported, he is one of the biggest conservative talk show hosts in Georgia, and he reported that they now have 6 signed affidavits. And what a lot of people don't know, and this is what the media does, the media is distracting. They're talking about COVID. They're talking about vaccines. They're talking about George Floyd. They're talking about whatever they can to keep us distracted on what needs to be on target. And what needs to be on target right now, at least one of the main things that we need to focus on, and we need to make sure that we're continually pressuring our local representatives, especially if you live in Georgia, especially if you live in Arizona and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and these states, because there are conservative Republicans that are pushing for forensic audits. Right. Well, there is a forensic audit going down right now in Fulton County on 100, and I actually got the number wrong in my video. It's actually 147,000 ballots. Now, these ballots are not just regular ballots. These are mail-in ballots. They just got 6 signed affidavits by 6 government officials that are handling this audit, that also handled the election in 2020. And because of what they found, 2 senators in Georgia have now called for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to now get involved for the rest of this audit, because what they are finding is massive. And this is what they found. But out of these 147,000 ballots, up to 30,000 of them are on a different paper than the other 117,000 ballots. Okay. But it's like, okay, maybe they ran out of paper. Maybe the government, the election commission ran out of paper. Okay, conspiracy theorists. All right. The second thing, out of these 30,000 ballots, all 30,000 of them did not have any creases. Now remember, these are mail-in ballots. So when they're mail-in ballots, they have to fold. Exactly. So if you have the ballots are like this big, they're huge. You got to fold these things like 3 and 4 times. They go in a sealed envelope. That envelope goes into another envelope. It's creased all over. These 30,000 ballots didn't have any creases. They were completely perfect, which alludes and indicates that these never got mailed out. Right. I mean, that to me is just groundbreaking. But then it gets even more. You have, out of these 30,000 ballots, no creases, different paper. Guess the percentage of these 30,000 ballots voted for Joe Biden. Lou, do you know?
Probably 99%. I would say 100.
99%.
Oh,
which,
my God.
Which the 1% is probably the actual real margin of error that we see in real elections. So that's probably the 1%. 99% of these ballots, different paper, no creases, 99% went for Joe Biden, and 97% went for Ossoff, the senator, which shows that really, most likely, we should have the Senate right now. And the two other smaller things, I mean, they're really not even that small. These 30,000, none of them were handwritten. They were all done by a machine, perfect circles, no pen and no pencil. And on top of that, out of these 30,000 ballots, 950 of them were military. We already know the military vote normally goes conservative. It would go Trump. All 950 military ballots went for Joe Biden. Statistically, mathematically impossible. This is what the media is trying to distract us from.
You guys can't be kidding. You guys got to be kidding me. You guys still think that there was fraud? Are you kidding me?
But what makes me so mad is, like, the media is so in on this thing. And if the tables were turned, and I know we hear this analogy a lot, but seriously, if Trump had won this election and all this news came out about, holy crap, everything that we just talked about happened and 99% went for Trump, I mean, I'll be honest, I'd be like, damn, did Trump steal this election? That's the first thing I would think. Even as a Trump supporter, I'd be like, or did the Georgia officials, that doesn't make sense. And what's sad is that we're at a place now, and this is going to be a perfect segue into what we're about to get into, is that people are so indoctrinated and brainwashed and conditioned that no matter what the truth, the facts that comes out, it's all conspiracy. Kevin's been talking about this on his Instagram, is ideological subversion. And I'm going to actually read something from this book, and then we're going to get right into it. This book right here, Love Letter to America, talks about, how this is from a former KGB, and this KGB, he worked for the Soviet Union. He understands communism. What he talks about specifically in this book is how they would push their movement and their agenda with communism without having to use any military force. And the way they did it was through ideological subversion, which he warned America. This book was written in 1984. He warned America in 1984 that step number 3 of the 4 steps to completely destabilize an entire nation without having to do without any military force was already done. And what's happening right now is we're now starting to see the fruits of this. He said this was their plan. This is how they literally did this. Number 1, you corrupt the young and get them interested in sex, and you take away any religion, make them superficial and enfeebled. Number 2, you divide the people into hostile groups by constantly harping on controversial issues of no importance. And this is it's crazy. This book was written in 1984, and everything that we're seeing right now in culture today, which is exactly what we're going to talk about, is literally this handbook of this communist handbook that he literally is reading from 30 to 40 years ago. Number 3, you destroy people's faith in their national leaders by holding the latter up for contempt, ridicule, and disgrace. Number 4, always preach democracy, but seize power as fast and as ruthlessly as possible. And it just goes on. I'm at the point right now where I'm done with debate. I'm done with talking with the other side. And I've said this a couple times over the last couple lives. I'm not interested in having these conversations and bickering on Facebook and bickering on Twitter, or even having conversations with friends that we're gonna debate and nothing's really gonna end up out of it, because really what's happened is that people have become victims of this ideological subversion, and we need I don't know, and the sad thing is I don't know the full solution other than we need God and Jesus back in America more than ever before, because what's happening is faith is being removed from our schools, it's being removed from our country, or it's being removed completely. So with all that said, you guys have thoughts before we
I have a lot. I'm happy you're reading that book because he has a whole bunch of lectures, Bezmenov, and he says in order to destroy a culture, it takes about 15 to 20 years. It takes to manipulate and brainwash an entire generation. He says it comes in 4 stages. The first stage is demoralization, and the second stage is destabilization. The third stage is a crisis. You need a good crisis, a good chaotic disorder to destroy a culture. And that's exactly what 2020 was. 2020 was COVID. COVID was that perfect crisis that it took to destroy our culture. And stage 4 was normalization. Stage 4 is where we're at right now. And within these 4 stages, you have religion, you have your education, your social structures, your power structures, your law and order. And that's exactly what is being attacked. And so right now, what we're seeing with normalization is, and I was talking about this last night, is that we're seeing things with LGBTQ, we're seeing issues with transgenderism, we're seeing issues with I think it was a couple days ago, Elliot Page came out as a full-blown male. We're seeing this type of normalization, and it's really a curse. This was planned 15, 20 years ago, even more than that. And so we're seeing that proper destabilization, that proper demoralization, that proper crisis disorder. And now we're in the final stage of trying to dismantling a culture, and that's normalization. And so I agree 100% what you said, Jordan, is that we need, because Marxism is an ideology. That's all it is an ideology.
Yep.
And you can't replace an ideology with nothing. But that's exactly kind of what we're seeing right now. We're seeing an ideology as Marxism, communism, wanting to take the full-blown brunt, or should I say the full-blown face of culture. And it can't be, because we're already seeing the effects of what communism and Marxism is going to do and what it's already doing. I mean, just look at Black Lives Matter. Talk about distractions. I mean, just 2 days ago, yesterday, talking about George Floyd's funeral, a memorial for George Floyd. One, we should be talking about these audits.
Yeah, seriously.
We should be talking about these audits. But, George Floyd is, the saint of the year. If we are so far along in the game and this whole agenda, it's really just going to take God to save this country. And a lot of strong patriots and saints who are just like, I'm tired, and we need to start standing up for what really is right and true.
I hate what the media does, because they make George Floyd a saint and they don't even bring up Jocelyn Adams. When I watched that video, I cried. Like, I brought tears to my eyes. I was seriously crying in my room, thinking that her story is never going to be told. When Jocelyn Adams is sick, I think she was 6 or 7 years old, gets murdered at a McDonald's parking lot while she's getting lunch with her dad. And the issue here is that the media doesn't want to tell that story because it doesn't fit the agenda and the narrative. And this is why, I hate the media so hard. I hate corporate media, and I tell everyone, what the best thing you can do is literally disconnect your cable and don't watch TV. It sucks because they've infiltrated sports, they've infiltrated everything that we do, our school systems. And the scary thing that's in this book, he talks about, he's like, when someone gets to a certain stage of this ideological subversion, it's like they're gone. There's really no, the redemptive part is very, very, very hard, because you can give them the facts and you can literally show them he even says it, because you can show them the truth in their face in a video and they still won't believe it. And that is the scary part, because that's kind of where we're entering.
And if you look at a lot of the content that lately I've been posting, it's more so people need to heal their anger, their resentment, and their hatred in their heart. And that's what Marxism feeds off of.
Yeah.
The whole manifesto, the whole blueprint is to compartmentalize people into these small groups to create mass confusion. And if you look at our country right now, our culture of America, and all the things that's going on right now, it's everything. You got stuff going on with Israel, you got stuff going on with Colombia, you got stuff going on with Black Lives Matter. It goes on and on and on. It's so many mass confusion going on, and we don't, like you said, we got to stay focused on the things that really matter, right? And it's hard to do that when whoever controls the message controls where your mind goes.
No,
like even on Netflix, like most people probably know of it. They have a whole documentary just on social media and how they can manipulate you and constantly putting things in front of you. Obviously, we all have phones. Most people, they watch TV. Whoever's controlling the message controls the narrative.
Yeah.
So this is what we're seeing. So that's just kind of my input on it. I want to hear what everybody else has to say.
I've been speaking to these people, and it's been a repetitive type of response to certain things, right? Of course, like somebody would say, and that Trump, just regular conversation, and then they'd be like, and then we had Trump. And it's like, well, what was wrong with Trump? So you start that line of questioning, right? So then, and there's the kind of the canned responses that everybody says to the same things. And what I've noticed is, I just want to tell people that I think that there is still power in one-on-one conversation.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
I spoke with my little cousin. He's not really little anymore. He's a grown man, but he's my little cousin. And he was telling me how he felt stressed and oppressed and how he was afraid and all these things that he was saying. And I questioned him about everything. Well, why do you feel that way? Well, because of the police. Well, why about the police? Because they're killing us. Well, how many of us? I don't know. You never thought about that. How come you don't know that, but you feel so afraid?
Right.
Yep.
Why do you feel oppressed? Because of Trump. What's Trump doing? Taking our rights. What rights?
Yeah, you just ask them
You know,
simple, logical
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
like,
And seriously, that's why I think it is so important for guys like you, because again, I can have the same conversation with someone, but because I don't look like them, it is a little bit, I've noticed that there is so much power when, I think the thing that scares the Democrats the most is when a black man is a free thinker. Like seriously, it destroys the entire agenda. And I don't like bringing race into it personally, but there is a power when someone that comes from the other side is like, hold on, and they can receive that better. And I think that's just culture. It just that is just culture, because again, I can't say that I understand what your story is and where you came from and what your upbringing was when I had a dad and a mom. I can't really connect in that specific way.
I would challenge you on that. The reason why it may seem that way is, we'll call the elephant in the room. If you feel that, most black and brown people may not receive your message because you're white, that's wrong. What's the lady's name that's a white liberal, loves to point out different racist things?
Elizabeth Warren?
No, I thought her name was something else. Everybody knows her. She's on
yes,
TV.
I know you're talking about. She's like a hero on 11.
She's like a hero. So depending on what your message is, they'll receive it sweet to their ear.
Good point.
You know what I mean? So, and then I go on like some of these other social medias, and I'm reading this book by Shelby Steele. It's called Shame. And he was talking about, he went to this panel, right? And the guy tried to change it into a debate setting. Obviously, it was a white liberal, and it was sweet to the people's ear because it was the message and what they wanted to hear. It didn't matter if he was white or they love to hear from him. So just don't feel that way. Dude, we get the same thing. We black. All different shades on here. We get the same thing. If they don't like the messaging and it challenges them to get better.
This is useless after that.
It
pretty much.
I want to call the white supremacists. I can call it all kinds of stuff. I just encourage you, don't feel that way, because the height of what's going on in our country right now. You got to remember your forefathers, the ones that helped my ancestors, us get out of slavery. You guys sacrificed your lives, businesses, your family, your freedoms to help us get to where we are, to vote, to pass laws. You got to remember that there's people that are just like you, that are white, maybe they're brown, maybe they're Asian complexion. I don't care what complexion they are, but they all stand up and they fight for what's right. So it's going to feel like they ain't going to receive it because you don't sound what they want to hear. It's not sweet to their ear. You're challenging the status quo. And that's for me too. That's for these two other people that's on here as well. So that's my quick input on that. But Jordan, I want you to keep going.
I appreciate it.
I want to add to that, because what he said was 100% right. And remember before I was talking about how stage 4 is normalization. They want to normalize the fact that white people are silenced. They don't want you to speak.
Boy, he is speaking fast.
Right. They don't want you to speak. And that's why critical race theory, and that's why white privilege was such a talking point, because they want you to shut up. And so the thing that you have to do is do the complete opposite of what's being normalized in culture. And that means just keep speaking, because you really don't know who's going to be listening to you. And a lot of people tend to sleep on the youth. Like I grew up in New York, right? So I grew up in both Queens and Brooklyn. You'd be surprised who's willing to listen to you just because of the color of your skin. If anyone's who's on the live and they're listening, don't think that because you don't look like me, you don't have my pigmentation, that no one's going to listen to you. It's the exact opposite right now, because as much as we want to say that white privilege and critical race theory and, trying to cancel white people is normal, people are getting tired of normal. People are getting tired of that normal. Yeah. They're getting very tired of cancel culture. And eventually it's going to get to the point where that big cancel culture bubble is going to get popped. And I really think the only people that can really pop it are white people. People who don't look like me. People who don't look like everyone else on live. You need, Jordan, is to continue to allow the Holy Spirit to just empower you to just keep opening your mouth. Because you really don't know who's listening. And just with this live, I promise you, there are people who will be like, I don't know Jordan, but I kind of like what he has to say. You feel me? So it's just one of those things where it's like, just do the opposite of stage 4. Do the opposite of normalization.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the gaslighting too of the media. When I was a kid, I never felt racial tension, ever. It didn't even cross my mind. Like all my friends, seriously, I mean, I grew up in a more, I grew up playing basketball. I grew up in a more not too rich neighborhood. All my friends are black. So I never in my mind thought about race ever until probably the last 7 to 8 years. And I think that's the part of what we really want to get into about is what the media is doing, how much it is affecting culture today. And I think there's so many ways to really look at it. You can look at the education system. You can look at in the media. I mean, where do you think, how how do we get over this? Because I mean, where does I know Craig. I don't remember if it was Craig or Lou that want to talk about the healing, because it's I think people are hesitant to talk about the sensitive issues because of the gaslighting in the media, because of even what we see on social media. I mean, I go on social media and I'm depressed. I'm completely depressed.
You got to take like breaks.
For real. Like,
I got to take like, what do they call them? Detoxes. Literally, I do it. There's people on here like, man, I never see you on TikTok. I'm like, man, I had to take a detox, man. It's so toxic. But man, before we go into it, I always love to shed on a hypocrisy or an oxymoron, right? Like, there's white folks out there that there's people that will make white folks feel like you can't speak on challenges on other communities because they have maybe a darker complexion, right?
mm-hmm.
And they'll say white folks can't fix things, they can't help the situation, but yet the oxymoron is they run around with the white liberals' ideology.
Yeah.
Like, if we go with the prejudice plus power, the whole white privilege, that was created by a white liberal named Patricia. So I always want to hit it home for people to feel like, look, just because you're white, don't let people think that you can't make a difference. You can't have input in intellectual ideals that can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's so good.
I always like to hit home of that. Just remember that, everybody. They love to adopt the whole prejudice to power, that white folks got privilege. Mm-hmm. And that was created by a white liberal called, her name is Patricia. You can go look it up. It's on the internet. I ain't making this up. It's all reference. But just to go in to what you were saying about the healing, it's going to drive home exactly what we're talking about right now. I'm a Christian, right? And I'm a Christian. Like, am I a Bible thumper? No. Am I a historian of the Bible? Am I a pastor or a preacher? No. And that is apparent. But if you're someone that stands on the Bible, then you stand on forgiveness. In that great book, it says, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Mm-hmm. All things passed away. So if you stand on the Bible, you stand on forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And right now, what we have in our country, which plays right into the Marxism manifesto, to stray people away from any type of beliefs, right? To where they think that just trust the science. And even then, they don't even want to trust science. Yeah. They don't want to believe in God. They say, amen, a woman. I mean, it's bad. We all see it. People have a lot of hatred, anger, and resentment in their heart. And like my man Lou said, if you just ask them logical questions on what they're so upset about, you'll find them stumble like, well, Trump is racist. Like, well, I mean, you know who Nelson Mandela is? He donated his whole entire private jet to Nelson Mandela. I mean, so I mean, if you just ask them logical things, but that's where my stance is. It's like, if you stand on the Bible, you stand on forgiveness. God is a forgiving God. No matter what has been done to you, no matter what has happened to you in your life, right? People have to find a level of an emotional intelligence, right? Like, my brother had a hate crime done to him. He cut through some guy's yard, and the guy snuck up on him and hit him with a 2x4, called him all kinds of N-words, maimed my brother where he had over 100-something stitches in his mouth. Does my brother go around saying that he hates all white folks because of that? No. You have to find levels of emotional intelligence to be able to discern, to decipher and say, hey, not everybody's like this. This person may have been that way. But right now what we have is they are literally treating certain people in this country, white folks, as if just because they're white, they have an original sin for things that happen in another generation, right? And there's a lot of anger, and there's people that are paid to keep fueling that, to keep that going, right? And it just saddens me, man. Not just that, well, this is like, look at Israel. Look, man, it just goes on and on and on. So I just hope people can find it in their heart, like, to be able to reach those levels of deciphering between, hey, like, not everybody, if whatever happened to you, if some person that loves to wear purple dresses hit your car and came out the car and punched you in the face, like, not everybody that wears a purple dress it's going to get out of the car and punch you in the
So
face.
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we just have to find those levels of emotional intelligence to be able to decipher. But yet we have our country's literally divided in half and saying one entire group of people are racist.
Yeah.
They're all white supremacists, and everything they stand for is to uphold racism and try to oppress people. And it's like, man, you should see some of the things that I experience, the things that people say to me, just because I think different, right? Just because I'm an independent thinker, right? I want to challenge what the collective group think says, right? And it's amazing to me, man. Go ahead, Jordan.
I love what you said, because you said that, you know, I think one thing that we have to remember is people are misinformed. They really are. And even the people that are on the opposite side of the aisle, you know, regardless of race, regardless of color, culture, like, the reason why people are reacting is because they have been indoctrinated in this, you know, in this Marxist, Marxist ideology without even realizing it. And that's where it's like, I don't blame the other side. I mean, like, the number one thing, corrupt the young, get them interested in sex, take them away from religion. Like, this is the number one thing, this Marxist ideology. And the founder of Black Lives Matter, like, I mean, it just amazes me that the movement that started this big division, like, we've seen the other divisiveness in our country, but like BLM over the last 4 years was like a huge spike we've never seen like before.
Yeah.
And the founder, and we all know this, but the founder of this organization is not just a Marxist, a trained Marxist. She's a very smart woman. She knows what she's doing. And everything, and I just read 3 of the 10 points from this book. Yeah. Everything, all 10 points, she is trained and to use ideological subversion, to use propaganda to control an entire generation. And Kevin, you posted this on your Instagram story. I don't know if this was today or yesterday. And I saw it and I screenshot it. And it was a quote from Thomas Jefferson. I believe it was you. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson says, a well-informed citizens is the best defense against tyranny. So what do? You misinform. That is, I mean, which to me, when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's. I mean,
when you
Kevin,
look at the statistics, when you look at the statistics of unarmed Black men being killed by the police compared to other issues that are obviously the elephant in the room, you're misinforming people. Whoever controls the message controls the narrative. I said it in the beginning. So go ahead, Lou.
No, it's true. It's true. And, you know, I think I quoted that quote by Thomas Jefferson because it's just straight facts. It's just straight fact. There's no facetious attitude towards that line. The best way to change a culture, destroy a culture, the best way to destroy a society, the best way to destroy a nation is completely change history. And so if you can change history, if you can misinform a large population, if you can completely deceive, which is really just all it is, just deception. If you can completely deceive an entire generation, you can change culture. You can destroy culture. You can demoralize culture. You can destabilize culture. And that's the point. And so, like I said, what we're seeing is a strategic, systematic destruction of our entire culture. And, you know, the one of the reasons Yuri Bezmenov made out of all the 4 stages, he put religion as the top one. And that was because Mortimer Adler, he's a philosopher, he says, the greatest question a person can ever ask in order to live their life is, what do they think about God? And the first step in Marxism and communism is to completely remove that concept of God. Because if you can remove that concept of God, if you can remove that concept of Jesus, who he is, and the principles that he brought, and the life and salvation that he came to bring, you can completely remove everything with culture. So, you know, that's like I said, what we're seeing is just a systematic setup. It's a systematic destruction of our culture. And we need more panels like this. We need to keep doing stuff like this, because the more people are able to see, but also hear, even if they don't even agree right away, they still need to hear, because you don't even know. Someone might be on this live and they don't really agree with what you have to say, or what I have to say, or what anyone else on the panel has to say, but it'll stick to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You feel me? So
100%. And Lou, you posted this, I don't know if this was in the last 2 or 3 days, and you posted a graphic from Cuba from decades ago, and it says, Cuba, our revolution is not communist. Our revolution is humanist. The Cubans only want the right to an education, the right to work, the right to eat without fear, the right, I mean, doesn't this sound familiar? The right to peace, the right to justice, the right to freedom. And I want to get your thoughts on why you posted this, because, I mean, one thing that I know is that, you know, when people look at socialism, they think of equality, where when I look at capitalism and the republic, it's not about equality, it's about equality of opportunity. And it just, when you saw this graphic, like what, I mean, had you known that was this new to you? And then, I mean, what are you doing now in conversations? Because I know this is something that you're really focused on, is peace and trying to help educate people. What are you doing on the day-to-day to really have those deep conversations? I know you're talking about, you kind of just hit them with facts, but I mean, what has it looked like? Have you had progress as well at the same exact time?
So with the
graphic,
picture, I actually saw that on Bring Back Logic's page.
Okay.
And I thought that was great because the slides put all these different people's perspectives together to kind of show that one picture. But it's the fact that we know, because we have history now, we know they were communists, and they said they weren't communists, but they were humanists, and that they just wanted right. So it's like, come on, man. Like, it's like you see that type of stuff, and you have to get some type of sense of deja vu when you see that. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm expecting to happen when I post something like that, is for people to see that. The same thing, like, I have a video on my page about color revolutions, and when you see it, they show the fist in all these different nations, and how people who have they have the schematics of people's outfits, and they look just like Antifa. And you see that this whole movement started off of a police brutality issue that was exaggerated and actually what is the word, incited by people who are also very Antifa-like as far as nature and function. So it's like, when you see those patterns, you have to ask yourself, I would assume that you would then ask yourself, like, why does that look so familiar? If why does Black Lives Matter have the fist and Antifa with this riot looking gear? They look exactly like those people. So that's why I would post that, for people to ask that question. It's because I think it's really powerful when you hear from somebody that's from Venezuela, somebody from Cuba, or from any of these nations that have actually implemented these policies, and other people are actually bragging about and saying that they are something to look at. You know what I mean? But like, I've posted things about communism on my page and had people in the comments like, yeah, my family fled that. Yeah, I have a friend who fled that. Yeah, we you know what I mean? And then you have other people from here saying, well, what's wrong with communism?
Yep.
Like, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? At that time, I really didn't know too much about it, so I really couldn't have the type of conversations I really wanted to have. But now that I listen to that stuff, like, it's one of the things that I do throughout the day, right? I listen to these audiobooks or whatever. I listen to these lectures. I listen to these conversations. I listen to like James Lindsay talk about critical race theory. I listen to it over and over again so that I can understand what they're saying. I want to be able to say what they're saying, like, committed to heart in a sense, so that I can understand, so I can piece it all together as a conversation. And then when I can explain to somebody the difference between equality and equity, because that's a really hard concept to break down. It's a real, because when people hear equity, they like, yeah, that's right. It's like, I understand why you say that, but let's look at the places where equity was instituted, right? Like the war against poverty, like let's look at that. Let's look at, like, just we going to talk about Black people because America went through this, but let's look at Black people before the war on poverty, and then Black people after the war on poverty. Let's look at Black people before affirmative action, and then Black people after affirmative action.
Oh, he's spitting fire.
Boy, you getting ready to get me going. Get me going.
That's the equity stuff. So I talk about people with that. I talk to them about that all the time, and I say, for example, you have Black Lives Matter, right? Well, Black Lives Matter is about police brutality and all that type of stuff. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but do you know the numbers? No, I don't know the numbers. All right, so we'll look at this a little deeper.
Logical questions.
Yeah, just hit them with that. And I asked them, I'm like, do you know that everywhere there was a Black Lives Matter protest, police killings went down? And they say, see? I'm like, but do you know why? You think it was because they were racist? Right. Or are they afraid of being seen as racist? Because the opposite effect, the effect that happens because of the police killings going
right now, they're more apprehensive.
Exactly. and black murders in those same places have gone up, skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So with that point, here's the numbers that came out today. Minneapolis, homicides in Minneapolis up 93% year to date. 1 year, up 93%. Los Angeles, 148%. Portland, 800%. And these are cities that are pro defunding the police. They're pro Antifa. They're pro everything, and they are all Democratic run cities because they are not keeping their own citizens accountable. And that's why I love Ron DeSantis, because you see this guy, he puts the anti-riot bill. He says, you do this, you will be accountable. We don't got these problems here in Florida.
You got to appreciate it, because I see these viral videos of people that are just driving in their car and then they get surrounded by the mob. So if he sees that, I appreciate it being someone in Florida, because it can easily happen. What's happening in a lot of these other states that are ran by Democrats, these autonomy zones, I appreciate my governor to be able to recognize and say, you know what, we need to implement something to protect the citizens for cases like this.
Yeah.
Here, this person just got a charge. Maybe they were afraid. They don't know what to do. The mob surrounded their car. They hit the person with the car. So he put the power back into people to be able to protect themselves in case a situation like this. If it's a peaceful protest, by all means, be peaceful. But we all know now that that narrative of saying most of these protests are 98% peaceful. And it's like, no, maybe it might have started out that way, but sure don't end that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true.
But look, to go back to the Marxist agenda, the leaders of Black Lives Matter, which are poor leaders, you have to realize they're just pawns. They're pawns being used as a political move, as a overall agenda of takeover. They're just pawns, because look how quick it went from Black Lives Matter, hate the police, put the pigs in the blanket, to defund the police, that narrative, how quick it went to stop Asian hate. And then bam, now it's Israel. It's like, man.
And now it's medical.
Now it's medical. Yeah. Now it's
medical.
Yeah.
Now it's medical. So
I mean, they're just dividing fractions into fractions into fractions where, I mean, think about it. We're at a place now in our country where, I mean, I don't experience this anymore in Florida or nearly as much, but when I was living in LA just last year, I mean, I went back to LA 2 months ago and walking outside, and I wasn't rocking a mask, and I literally was the only person that was not wearing a mask, and people were just giving me the dirtiest looks. And the thing, I think what COVID has done to our society is 5 times worse than what BLM has done. Like, I really do, because now we're scared to be around people just to breathe. I mean, the party of science is fully vaccinated and still triple masked. Like we are at the place of just complete delusion. And that's where it's like, I don't even know how you find common ground. I mean, and again, this is where I need to there is hope, because when I have conversations with specific people, I'm just like, I don't know even how to have a conversation with you, because I could literally I've showed you the videos, and I mean, anyways, I don't want to get to that part, but it is a scary time, and what you guys are talking about, of having these conversations, and that's why it's so important to be educated, man, to know, to have the stories ready, so that you really can speak truth, because the good thing is truth is on our side, and truth will set you free. You guys have any other thoughts around this? Because
I was gonna add to what everyone was saying, is that what you said about history is important. We are gonna be the history teachers for this next generation, because the indoctrination centers called public schools have done their job. And as far as I see it, 2/3 of most youth, Gen Z, I forgot what list they call them, but even older adults, they're looking on social media for some type of ulterior information. Regardless of us being fact checked, regardless of being shadow banned, people are still searching for something. And so I have countless people who show up on my account daily and just think, hey, thank you for sharing that. And I'm like, what happened if I didn't share that today? Would you have known? Like, would you have seen? You know, if I didn't talk about BLM, if I didn't give you another another input about what's really going on in culture, would you have known?
So
You know,
true.
so I really do think our voices amplified right now are probably the utmost important thing, because people are not finding ulterior places or ulterior voices that they can hear. And so our voices tonight are of the utmost importance. But I'm not afraid of what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to get darker. People with the whole issue with the jab is going to get even more serious.
Yeah.
But I have a whole lot of hope, because God's not done. I mean,
Amen.
we're looking at these audits, God's not done. I mean, we're looking at what's going on with the nation, God's still not done. And so the best days for this country are still ahead. I'm not afraid of what's happening with this country. God's got us. And so we just have to keep doing what we're doing, not get weary, not get tired, just keep pushing forward. And so there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be straight. God's got us.
We just got to start Kwame Browning everybody.
Yeah.
Kwame Brown has been hitting home. I've been posting Kwame Brown like.
Talk about it, Craig. Talk about it.
Man, I mean, it's just like Kwame Brown is calling. It's very rare to see celebrities speak out. Right? He's a celebrity who played in the NBA. They trashed this man for years, man. He was drafted at a young age. They trashed him.
He was the #1 draft pick, wasn't he?
He was #1 draft pick. They say he didn't live up to his potential. But, I mean, a lot of people can argue it different ways. But it's just very rare to see a celebrity speaking out against the woke.
Come on.
And then the things he's saying, it is so unapologetic. It's like, man, I've been saying this the whole time. He's saying it, and it's just holding even more weight. So I'm very pleased to see someone at the celebrity status that does not care about the big machine paying him anymore, right? Yeah. He's saying what needs to be said, right? Yeah. So I really appreciate it, man. I really, really appreciate it. I posted the last post where he's talking about the Black KKK collective groupthink. I know a lot of y'all probably like, what the hell is that? But I'm telling you, it just Kwame Brown is, man, I just appreciate his voice, man.
Yeah,
a lot of times these people can make you think that you're going crazy. Right? And my biggest thing is I'm going to talk about us right quick, right? The three brothers on here, myself and the other two. They have a way of making us feel like we're crazy because we're independent thinkers, right? We broke from the herd. We're not going along with the majority of what most are saying. And it's like, all of us have our different ways. I know I trigger people sometimes. I purposely do it sometimes. Yeah. But everybody has their style. And it's just, when I heard Kwame Brown hit that last video that I posted and how he's calling them out and how they try to silence us and they assassinate our character and they make us, look at what they did to Kanye West. They make it like we're mentally ill. And it's just sad, and it tries to suppress our voice and make it seem like we're crazy. But what we're saying is a high level of emotional intelligence. Yeah. We're like, wait a minute. I don't hate white folks. I'm not anti-white. I love the country that I live in. I'm not anti-American. Right? Maybe I don't want to wear the mask. Maybe I think they stole the election. I think Joe Biden's racist. You know what I mean? Come on. It's just sad how they do this, and I know it's in the white community as well in America. Yeah, you have white liberals. I see them, dude. What's the guy with the missing tooth on TikTok? He just constantly is going out. I'm like, this is crazy as I don't know what shit that's going on. Look, y'all, people got to find forgiveness in their heart, man.
It's good.
You should hear when they say this to me, Jordan. Man, the white folks don't care about you. They're going to be hanging you. I mean, it's some of the most craziest stuff I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, and it's so true. I'm also reading, I'm almost done with it, Candace Owens' Blackout book. And in one of the chapters that I just read, she literally goes, the reason that they are able to control and have so much control over minority communities is because of fear. But as well, they've controlled the education system to a place where they have dumbed down the education. Through critical race theory, they have changed history, and they focus on social justice issues. And that's why we have dumbed down academics, where people aren't smart anymore when they graduate high school and even college. They don't. When they graduate college, they don't even have skills because they focus their entire damn bachelor degree college education on social justice issues and critical race theory, and then their history teachers aren't even teaching them real history. So I mean, this is actually, I mean, go ahead.
Critical race theory drives me absolutely up the wall, man. If you look at, I think there's like 4 main principles. The first 2, everything's racist. Then we either say this panel right now is because of white supremacy racism. Those 3 brothers is brainwashed. The system got them thinking. I mean, they say everything is racist. The second principle is white folks are unreversibly able to not be racist. Yeah. Unless it benefits them. And I'm like, man, that's wrong. Yeah. And that's why I say people got to find forgiveness in their heart, because they got anger, hatred, and resentment. And it ain't just black folks. It's white folks. It's anybody, like my man says, natural, how'd you say it? Habit to connect with other people that think the same way. Right.
Well, I mean, people think, I guarantee you that the average person in high school or even graduating college thinks that slavery started like 80 years ago or 100 years ago. Like, they don't realize that. I mean, you read the Bible, like literally open the Bible, Egypt in Exodus. Like this goes back. Every country on the planet has dealt with slavery. I mean, you really want to get into history. Who sold African Americans, the Africans, to America?
They sold each other for beads, alcohol.
Yes.
Lou, what's your thoughts on it, Lou?
I mean, it was mind blowing, because I mean, I had heard it before, but I think I talk about like how they hijack your imagination, create memories and stuff and all that type of stuff. My perspective of slavery, I think, was based on roots. That's what I think. And because I thoroughly remembered us being kidnapped, right? So that's what I remember, was us being kidnapped by white people and all that type of stuff, taken away in chains. And then I listened to Tom Sowell got this book. I believe it's called like Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Yeah, White Liberals. Yeah. So it's that book, and there's a chapter, and I think it's chapter 3, The True History or the Real History of Slavery. Listen to that.
He blows it up.
Mind blowing. It'll break every paradigm that you ever had about slavery, all that type of stuff.
Dude, and then you got the Dr. Umars of the world.
Oh, forget it.
Like what? I'm
not trying
to downplay slavery, right? Everybody knows there was some horrific shit that happened during slavery. But there's parts of history of slavery times. Why don't these Pan-African, pro-activists, whatever you want to refer to, bring up like the white pirates? A lot of people don't even know about white pirates.
Right.
It doesn't fit the narrative.
People here like white pirates. What does he mean? Pirates like the Captain Pirates. They would go and they would pirate a slave ship, and they would free all the slaves. And then slaves became pirates and would go and free other slaves. So all throughout history, you had good people, man, but you also had bad people. But that's the thing. They want to suppress that part.
Right.
They don't want people to know that part. They want to keep that going.
Yes, it's so true. I mean, you can even get into indigenous people. I mean, you'd look at Native Americans, and I mean, I read this in Candace Owens' book Blackout. They literally had slaves, and the tribes they would literally kill the men, take the woman, they would rape them, they would make them
concubines,
and then they would make them slaves. And then they would even sacrifice. At one point, I believe it was the Aztecs, from what Candace's book said, and they sacrificed like 60,000 people on their annual sacrifice day. I mean, this. So again, and this isn't to point back at like, look at this. It's to show like when you look at everything in a big picture, like you're not as bitter. You start to understand history. Like we've come such a long way. I mean, look at us.
Jordan. I'm gonna go ahead and profess this to the public.
Do it.
Obviously, people know my story. I've done prison time. In prison, I studied African history. I went through the phase of being angry. But once I start reading and really understanding, wow, you know what I mean? It's exactly what you just said. You kind of have a better overall understanding of how things transpired.
Yep.
And that's what
Yep.
I mean by people need to find that level of emotional intelligence
Yeah.
to be able to decipher.
Yeah.
But people have it. They just choose to go with the collective lie, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The
That's,
You
truth,
know
the
what I
truth
mean?
doesn't fit the narrative. The truth doesn't fit the narrative today. And the problem is that people do not want the truth. They just want the narrative, because the narrative is easier to digest. The narrative is easier because someone is fishing to you what, instead of teaching you how to fish, someone is giving you the fish.
Yeah.
yep.
Why would I go out and fish when you're giving me the fish?
Right.
I don't need to. And so that's the problem that we're having right now in culture, is that people do not want to go out and fish for the information, for the truth. They just want it fed to them. And so the truth just doesn't fit the narrative. The truth doesn't fit the narrative about history. The truth doesn't fit the narrative about the elections. The truth doesn't fit the narrative about the jab. The truth doesn't fit the narrative about BLM. And so that makes people uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so this live tonight is going to make people uncomfortable because the truth does not fit the narrative.
Bro,
And
this
that's
live
just
was therapeutic for me.
Oh, bro, me too.
We got to do this again,
No,
man.
honestly, you took the words out of my mouth. I've never done this before, but seriously, I want us four to do this again. Next week it's pretty booked, but the week after, if you guys
Let's do it.
seriously DM me right after we get off this live.
Right.
Next
I'm going
week,
to shoot y'all to follow too, man. Hopefully we
Yeah.
can all stay connected.
really quick. I want to make sure everyone knows, because I've been seeing this. I had a couple of these in the same question. Where are you guys posting this? This will be posted on this Instagram live. It will get deleted for tonight, and then by tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. we're gonna have our videographer and editor. He's gonna edit it for us, and it will be posted back up in the morning. So this entire conversation will be on this Speak Truth Without Fear channel tomorrow morning when you guys wake up. Really quick, final thoughts. I would love to get all three of you guys final thoughts. And remember, everyone, speaktruthwithoutfear.com. Please put in your email, because we are going to be transferring platforms pretty soon. We're working on that. Let's get final thoughts. We'll go Lou, we'll go Craig, and then we'll end with Kevin.
All right. So I always like to tell people, right, spirits don't die. So if you relate to yourself as a human being, then there are a lot of things that will affect you on your day-to-day, whether it be the information you receive, whatever it might be. But one of the if you know that spirits don't die, and you know that in that realm everything here is perfect, you do what you can, but it's not a heavy burden the way it would be if you were so rooted in being a fleshly being. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I like, that's where from that place I live in eternity. And this, however many years that I last here, whether it be I'm killed over COVID, you see what I'm saying? Like whatever it might be, whatever future persecution may come or whatever, I really don't care. The only thing that I have to do at the end of the day, because the one thing that communism is all against, and we just said it, was God, right?
Yep.
If we go deeper with that, it's against even recognizing your inner being. You see
Come
what I'm
on,
saying?
bro.
So it's about relating to this fleshly whole existence, and that's your color, that's your gender, that's your sex, all those things that all relates to this suit. None of that stuff has anything to do with your eternal self. So if you relate to that, that is my paradigm every morning that I exist from. That is my, so when I see things that are troubling, I understand that they're troubling, but I also understand that everything is perfect. The same way how Joseph did at the end of the situation. At the end of the situation, his brothers came to him and said, please don't be mad at us now that dad is dead. I know we betrayed you and sold you into slavery and stuff. And he's like, what? You didn't, the good that you planned against me, that was God doing good for me. You don't understand. You can't take credit for that. You think it was evil, but actually it was God, because what we recognize is the fact that Joseph was placed where he was at. If Joseph wasn't sold into slavery by his brothers, there'd be no Israel, right? There'd be no Israel.
He hitting home now.
You see what I'm saying? So that level of understanding, to me, that's unconditional love, which is the ultimate form of emotional intelligence. So he's looking at them and he's seeing the thing that other people would be so upset and say, why aren't you mad at your brothers? He's like, because they didn't do it. God did it. So that's every day. That's how I am.
I love that. I mean, I want to put a plug in for Matthew 24. Jesus said it himself, like, you will be persecuted and hated for my name's sake. And we know where this ends, the end goal. And so, I mean, that's why even Paul says we don't battle flesh and blood. We battle principalities and spirits.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important that every morning, seriously, if this is good, The hate, you're going to embrace the hate. This is a part of the journey. This is a part of being a truth bearer. This is a part of being a free thinker and a freedom fighter. Like, this is a part, it is a badge of honor. Don't be discouraged when you get hated on. This is a part of seriously speaking truth. If you are not getting hate, then most likely you are not speaking truth, because the truth is, Jesus was one of the most offensive people to walk on this planet. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep going. Craig.
I'm going to keep it short. I'm not, like I said before, I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not a preacher or a pastor, and that's apparent. But I do know a few things of that great book called the Bible. People have to find forgiveness in their heart, man. People have a lot of anger, resentment, frustration, hatred. You got to find forgiveness in your heart. If you believe in God, you're a Christian, you stand on the Bible, you stand on forgiveness. 2 Corinthians 5:17.
Come on.
Be any man or woman be in Christ, then they are a new creation. Be all things passed away. That means that is forgiveness. I have a strong, I'm just like any other human being. I have things that I have to repent. I have a strong voice. I'm very unapologetic in my stance. I probably do have a little male masculinity toxicity. But I feel that we need that in this country.
Especially right now. Have you seen Kellogg's? I'm sorry.
Yeah. my goal is to continue to use my story and my voice, my experiences, to continue to inspire people. I encourage you to do what is not the most, to do what is not, what's the word? It's not, I hate it when I get poetic, man, because then the word, I'm lost for words. It's not the cool thing to do, right? It's very uncomfortable. You have to be bold, and you have to find the strength in yourself to take such a hard stance into no matter what and how somebody feels about what you're saying. If you truly believe it in your heart, maintain that stance.
Yeah.
Right? If you feel that it's going to do good and bring positivity, or maybe challenge people in the status quo or the way that they think or their stance, to maybe somehow we find common ground, or maybe to change their thought process, then I encourage you to do that, man. Amen. I do want to say, I thank all of you guys on the live, having us all on the live. I'm going to send you to a follow. Hopefully we can all connect. And Jordan, I also want to just thank you, man, for putting this together. It takes courage, man, to do this. There's a lot of things that you do on the back end with editing, trying to reach out to people, setting up good lives, good panels to bring a lot of strong voices of what we need in America right now. So I appreciate you for doing that, and I hope everybody else appreciates it. And last thing, like Reagan said, if we lose our freedoms here in America, there's no other place to go. This is the last stance. So keep fighting, y'all. I'm Craig, bro. 45.
I love it. Thank you for the kind words too, Craig. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Kevin.
All right, yeah. So I'm gonna keep it real short. We've all been saying that, and it has not been short. I
went long, didn't
I? I'll keep it real short.
You said you weren't a preacher, bro. You were a preacher.
Oh, man. Right. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yeah, so I'll keep it real short. Don't be afraid of the dark. Put on the full armor of God. Fight that good fight of faith. We were made and we were called for this season, for this time, for this specific strategic reason, and that was to shine a light in the dark. It doesn't get darker, but that's a good sign, because that means we were meant to shine brighter. Light can only shine in the dark. And so don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the backlash. Don't be afraid of the criticism. Don't be afraid of the scrutinism. Don't be afraid of the mocking and the scorning. Take it as a badge of honor. Put on the full armor of God. Remind yourself that God is for you. He's not against you. Remind yourself that greater is he was in you than he was in the world. Remind yourself that that armor is from God, and God will get the glory at the end of the day. Jesus is still king, and God is still God. He's still on the throne, and he's got this. We got this. America's going to be fine, because this panel is proof that America will not quit.
Yes, the power of
speaking in tongues.
For real, right? Seriously, I mean, in recap, the power of having an eternal mindset, man. When you have that eternal mindset, and the end goal in mind is not about the things that you want here on earth, and you think about eternal rewards like that. And when you have that mindset, everything just bounces off. And it really does. So it's so important, guys. If you click the arrow at the top right now, you will be able to quickly follow all three of or all of us, all four of us on the Speak Truth Without Fear. Craig, Kevin and Lou. And then as well, my personal Instagram is not on here. If you do want to follow me on my personal, where I do my other posts, it's Jordan Sarmo, JordanSarmo. Seriously, gosh, I love you guys.